Hello and welcome everybody to Flicker Effect, episode 342. We are recording and broadcasting this live on August 30th, 2020. This week we will be talking about some of the stuff we've watched lately. That includes the new Mutants, which is now in theaters. We've also got Bill and Ted Face the Music, the one and only Ivan, a bunch of other stuff to talk about. Before we get to all of that, though, as always, we'd like to welcome anyone who is new watching or listening to the show. Just so you know how you can find us, we broadcast this show live every Sunday night on YouTube at youtube.com/Flicker Effect. You can also listen to us via a podcast. The podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, the iHeartRadio app, and basically wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search for Flicker Effect. By the way, I'm David Lott. Joining me, as always, is Bobby Jackson.
Hey, how's it going? Well, not always, because I was gone last week, but mostly always.
Almost always. Yasha Wilson.
Hey, everybody.
And Michelle Hillard.
Hello, everyone.
First, I guess I should say, after saying all of that about broadcasting this show live on Sundays, of course, next weekend will be an exception.
Yeah.
We will be broadcasting Saturday night next weekend. Yeah, just how it works out. And it's Dragon Con weekend.
In the middle of Dragon Con.
So we're probably, at least a couple of us might be actually cosplayed for the show.
Cosplayed and buzzed.
Yes.
It'd be great.
It's a whole weekend of Dragon Con goes virtual. It should be fun.
Yeah.
Let's fucking go.
We're looking forward to it. We've got our Dragon Con mead.
Yep.
So, our nectar mead, right? What is it? Nectar? Dragon Con's nectar? And it's a mead.
Oh.
They're calling it Dragon Con's nectar.
Yeah, I think that is the official.
So we have the official drink of the con, and then we've
canned
got...
with the Dragon Con logo on it and everything, yeah.
It's pretty. And then...
Is it sweet?
It is.
Yeah, we're going to be drinking a lot of it. But we'll drink a decent amount.
It's not usually like that's not usually my cup of tea.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't
sweet.
think you usually drink sweet stuff.
Occasionally mead is good, and this isn't, I mean, it's called mead, but it's more of a carbonated kind of, real mead isn't, it's not the same. But anyway.
It'll be nice in the middle of the afternoon. Towards the evening, I definitely go to heavier stuff, but for like the afternoons, it'll be nice. And then, cosplaying, we've got Dragon Con TV streaming on 3 channels, right?
Yep. They're going to be streaming 3 channels, one of like main programming, one of the fan tracks, and one of like the Dragon Con, like just they call it DC TV Land, which is basically classic stuff, which actually you can watch right now if you have a Roku anyway.
Yeah.
They created an app on Roku, and they already have DC TV Land just streaming.
It's pretty sweet.
Like I put it on randomly, and it makes me want to cry. Actually, a little bit knowing that we're not going to be there.
It's funny. There was one because like it's basically what you watch when you're at the hotel room when you're at Dragon Con. Like it's like silly little like jokey things that kind of go on all day long, but they're all kind of like insider like Dragon Con jokes, and it's just kind of silly stuff. And yeah, like it's nice to like sit in the hotel room and like play board games with people and drink, especially if it's like raining outside. And then you're like, you have this on in the background and you put on some music and you're just kind of screwing around and you're hanging out in your room, right? But it's funny, like the other night, David had it on and there was one of these little like, what do they call those? The black screen where they type things.
Oh, the bumpers?
The bumper. So
it's kind of in the style of, what was that, Adult Swim?
Yeah,
bumpers.
Kind of like Adult Swim bumpers.
Yeah.
And there was one, and I don't know why, but like, I've seen it a million times, but watching it, I literally was like, wow, I'm really sad right now. Like, it really hit me hard. All of a sudden, I was like, I'm realizing this isn't happening.
Yeah, we're not going to be there.
It was a bummer. I'm getting teary-eyed thinking about it. I'm like, but we'll make the best of it for the weekend and watch the live streams, and maybe we'll cosplay.
But, yeah, next weekend should be a fun show.
Dragon Con.
It'll be a fun weekend. To get things started off.
Where'd you get?
Oh, go ahead, Bobby.
Sorry, where'd you get the meat from?
The official Dragon Con like social media accounts have been pushing certain vendors that are producing like official Dragon Con products, and they mentioned that and I think this meadery It's called Monk's Meadery in Georgia. I think in Athens, Georgia. I think.
That sounds about right.
I think every year they produce a mead for Dragon Con. I feel like they always have a booth set up at the Marriott, and there was one of the vendors they mentioned, and it went on sale on a certain day, and I ordered it that day, like right when it went on sale. Ordered like 3-4 packs. That was the max it would let me order.
We ordered the max.
So you've already tried it then, right?
I tried 1 can, but I've got a lot left. I've only tried the 1 can so far.
I'm curious. I'm kind of interested in what that must taste like. Just
I'm tempted to
Maybe we'll send Bobby
go
a
off
can.
camera and grab a can and show it to you real quick.
I know.
No, I saw it because I think you had it on your Instagram.
Oh,
so I think I
yes.
saw a picture of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious of the taste. So yeah,
Maybe
And
we'll
I'm gonna go ahead
send
and
a can to
one over
Bobby and
me.
Yasha.
I wanted.
I know, right?
They produced a second run because they sold out of their first run.
Yeah.
And they produced a second run, which went on sale the other day, and they may still be taking orders. I could send it to you, and you might still be able to order a pack, and if you're curious.
If you're curious.
Yeah. Well, it'll suck if I try it and I don't like it, and then I'm stuck with a pack.
Yeah.
And you're stuck with 3 whole cans. These 3
meat.
big
Yeah,
cans.
Yeah, they're big cans.
Yeah.
At least the cans look nice.
They're cool. They're cool looking.
Right.
Though.
Well,
They
there's
are.
that. There's
You can
that.
send it to me.
Yeah. There you go.
Back across the country, Georgia, out to you, and back over here. Anyway. Yeah, we have to start things off, of course, by remembering Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah.
We got the news, what was it, Friday night. Bobby let us know. I definitely didn't know about this. Michelle didn't. I don't know if you had heard yet, Yasha, but Bobby, you had sent it like in our kind of our text thread that we use throughout the week to kind of talk and chat. And you sent a link to, I think it was the Variety article mentioning his passing. I know Michelle and I were just completely
Totally shocked.
I think all of us were. It's one of those moments where you're like, something's not right. This can't be real.
I was like, really? But I'm like, it's Variety. Like, Variety.
Yeah.
Variety is Variety. It's
Well,
been Hollywood for
I
so
mean
many
in that kind of
years.
split-second moment of first reading
Yeah.
the headline of like, wait, and I mean any quick investigation, you realize, no, this is really happened. He passed away due to stage 4 colon cancer, which I guess he's been battling. It was diagnosed as stage 3 4 years ago.
Yeah.
He's been obviously working a lot in those 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. I'm still not really sure I've come to like terms with it. I guess it's nuts.
It's crazy to think because he was so young and to our knowledge, I had no idea he was battling colon cancer, and so to find out that he wasn't as healthy as I thought he was, and no, I mean his work on 42, and now I can't think the biography that he did for
You don't know?
yes, thank
Thurgood
you.
Marshall.
And then the Thurgood Marshall.
Forget it.
And then, of course, what everybody seems to totally know him from as Black Panther is, it's crazy to think that he's gone and that he's not going to be our T'Challa anymore. It's sad.
Yeah, that's the rough part, is thinking in terms of his prominence and how it grew, just from the moment he stepped into the shoes of playing that iconic character and bringing him to life for so many people, and what it meant to a large Black audience in terms of being able to see themselves on screen for the first time in a major way. There's something to be said for seeing Wesley Snipes' Blade, but when you see Chadwick Boseman among all these other superheroes that you know and love that have been built up for these few years beforehand with Thor and Iron Man, Hulk, and all these guys,
Right.
it means something. And everyone knows and can't deny how big of a cultural thing it was at the time, when you could see so many memes, so many different videos of young kids, young African American kids dressed up as T'Challa, doing the Wakanda salute, and just everything that it meant. And it elevated him to a level that it's indelible in the minds and hearts of so many young African American kids, but just not just them, but a lot of kids in general that were now recognizing this hero, this character that, for a lot of all intents and purposes, is considered a B character in the comic books in terms of uh, what the larger audience of people would know him from.
Right.
So it elevated that status of that character, and he was the embodiment of that character. So to lose him just on that level alone is crushing. And obviously his loved ones and family had to hold that secret and help support him and keep him healthy as much as they could, and keeping him able to go out and do the things he needed to do in order to help inspire others. So it's all around just such a heartbreaking story, especially knowing his age and being within that realm of age is like, it makes you take a step back and pause for a moment and really realize just how fragile life can be. And it's just one of those things where I think that the amount of love that's being poured out, and even the different things that is happening tonight with being them showing the Black Panther movie tonight uninterrupted
Yeah.
on ABC, and then with a small tribute to Chadwick Boseman as well. It just shows the mark he left, and it's a big thing, and it's a sad thing, but it's just one more thing that seems to be adding to the year that is 2020. That's just so hard to believe. And if you had told me last year some of the things that would have happened this year, I just wouldn't believe it. And this is another one that to add to that. So devastating for sure.
Yeah. Unless anybody has anything else to add.
I mean, what else is there to really say that we haven't heard, time and time again from anybody that's been a fan or anybody that's watched any of his stuff? I mean, he brought to life. He really embodied icons. Like he did a lot of iconic roles too. So I mean, James Brown, Jackie Robinson, Thurgood Marshall, just to name a few, and then but he owned this role. Like he really, really owned this role because this was. I mean, he did it so well, and it's just heartbreaking to hear, and it's devastating and shocking to all of the people that really just appreciated his art and his work and his talent. And it's a shame that we are missing out on more of that because he was taken way too soon.
Indeed. Well, to I guess move on to different topics. Hard to move on from that, but yeah, we've got a lot of stuff we've watched this week that we want to chat about. Before we do that quickly, we do have a lot to discuss. Yeah, we discussed DC fandom quite a bit last weekend. We're not going to talk about it a ton more, but Bobby, you weren't here for any of that. And I want to at least get some of your at least quick takes on some of the things that we talked about, since you haven't had a chance to talk about it. I mean, namely the Batman teaser.
Yeah.
We haven't even talked about it off air. I don't know. I guess I've kind of
right.
resisted asking you off air just to hear your opinion here on the show.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, first of all, how much of fandom did you watch? Did you watch like any of it, all of it, some of it?
None of it.
None of it.
I was pretty busy that day, so I didn't have a chance to watch any of it. I really kind of got my information later on in the day and here and there. I think maybe from the start, I got a little bit of the information of what was going on, really with the first couple things. That was the milestone announcement and stuff. And then I didn't have any time to check my phone for anything else for quite some time. And when I did later on, I started seeing some of the other things that had popped up as far as the announcements that were made and some of the stuff that was shown. And then I think I kind of had a little bit more free time right around the time that the Batman stuff started happening. So that's kind of where my experience is with it. I didn't get the chance to see any of the DC Fandom live, any of the actual panels per se. And I think what I ended up doing after the fact is kind of going back and seeing what was online as far as some of those panels, just to see how it was structured, how it kind of went in that way, so I could kind of understand it a little bit better, what far as the presentation goes. But I had already had all the news prior to that the day of, just because there's no way I was going to at least miss out on what was being said and shown at the event.
Right. Well, yeah. Before we move on to stuff we've watched this week, anything you want to kind of just, share your opinion on really quick?
I mean, I guess I'll hit the big two, and the big two being the Batman trailer and the Justice League Zack Snyder trailer as well. And I will say for the Batman, that was pretty much everything I was hoping it would be. As far as the tone, we had been told that Matt Reeves was going after something that was more of a detective story, and this looks really like it's delving into that aspect, with the Riddler being the main villain. So I was very happy with that and everything that we got as far as a first look. I really can't say in terms of any negatives for that trailer that I would point out, because it just gave me everything that I was looking for within this setup. And yeah, I'm just anxious to see where it goes from there. But it's one of those situations for me where I feel like now that I've seen that, I really don't feel like I need to see anything else, because I just wanted to get a feel for what he was going for and a taste of what that looked like. And I think I got that. So now I'm like, okay, I could really easily go radio silent on the rest of it for me, because now I just want to see it. And as far as the Zack Snyder trailer for Justice League, yeah, I think I was impressed in terms of how much more they seem to pull together as far as footage that we hadn't seen before, and how good it looked. Will it change the story much? I don't know. It seems like when you look at it that way, in the way that he was able to frame a lot of this stuff together, it seems like it could. But at the very least, I think I'm expecting something along the lines of Batman v Superman, where that ultimate cut, it kind of fleshed out a little bit more of some of the things that were going on that got cut out of that movie. And I guess I'm kind of expecting the same here, not to necessarily drastically change everything that we've already seen, but at least give some more context and some more background to some of the different scenes, and even some more added footage to just make it more of a complete thing. So yeah, I think I was happy with that first look at that as well, even though I am one of the few that enjoyed the Justice League that we got. I am curious to see what Zack Snyder's full vision will be once he's actually put the whole thing together and we get to see it sometime next year.
I have to ask, what's your thoughts on the? I mean, last thing has to do with DC Fandom. What are your thoughts on the plan to release it into 4 1-hour cuts? 1 hour.
I mean, I guess I think I had heard that initially, so
right.
I think I was not surprised by that. It just kind of further cemented that's what the plan was, that they're going to do.
Fucking bullshit.
I guess
like it is,
I know it's a kids program. I know that's bullshit. I am so pissed off at that. That's not even.
He's still
guess
still rough
me,
about it a week later.
I guess for me, it doesn't bother me in any kind of way. It doesn't bother me, and I think the reason being is because whatever he's adding to it, like I said, I still feel like it's still going to be pretty much what we got. I've seen what we got, so seeing it split up isn't going to bother me. And if it was this thing where it was like this completely brand new movie and it was split up in 4 parts, I'd be a little bit more reticent against it, because I'm like, well, I don't know why you would split up a movie, even if it's 4 hours. You can throw an intermission or something in there and do it that way. But this being something that I feel is at the very least familiar, it makes it kind of interesting, and I'm curious to see how it plays out as four different parts put together and giving time in between that week to week to be able to discuss what we saw within that first week to the second week and so on. So yeah, I guess in that respect, I'm more curious about how it plays out as four parts as opposed to just sitting down and watching the whole thing, which I'm sure you'll be able to do eventually. But I kind of am. I wouldn't necessarily say on board with it, but I don't mind it.
Gotcha. All right. Well, with that,
And Josh just said he is so
you're very upset about it, man.
He really is. He really is.
I'm not a fan of it either, but I think I'm not as angry as Yash is still.
Well, to move on to stuff that we've watched
Bitter.
this week or in the past 2 weeks, in your case, Bobby. One thing to consider is that movie theaters are now open in a lot of parts of the country. Movie theaters, are they technically even open near you guys right now at all? Or what's the situation in
Diego.
California?
San Diego's the closest one that I think that's open in San Francisco.
Right.
Is that right, Bobby?
I didn't know if they were. So I didn't know if they're open yet, but I thought that they at least can be the first to open. I was trying to look to see if they were actually open, and I didn't see anything specifically, but I didn't look too hard. So I don't know. They could be open right now, but I remember seeing an article saying that they would be the first two cities in California to open because they basically gone and made a new kind of chart as to when you can open and what zone you need to fall into as far as being able to get the okay to do certain things. And those two cities fall into the specific area of the chart where they can begin opening things like theaters. But I thought there was still maybe like even once you're in that zone, you still have to wait 14 days or maybe 21 days, I think, before you can actually open. So, yeah, but I'm not quite sure yet.
Looking now, Bobby, it looks like Regal Edwards Marketplace is open. Like it just, I mean, I'm looking, just doing a quick Google search on my phone, and it says AMC, the district. It still says temporarily closed, but Edwards West Park and Edwards in the Marketplace shows that it's open, and then AMC Classic is temporarily closed. Yeah, those are the only ones, and so still say they're closed. I mean, I'm going to check a little deeper, see if they're actually showing anything.
Right.
But
I assume these are all in Orange County. The ones
that's what I was about to say. And those are Orange County locations. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I bring that up because I noticed on the list of stuff that you have, Bobby, that you've seen the New Mutants.
Yeah.
So where did you see the New Mutants?
Yeah.
yeah,
Did you drive to Nevada?
Did you drive to Vegas to see the New Mutants?
I thought about it. I actually was thinking of maybe doing a double feature of New Mutants and Tenet, but New Mutants open this weekend and Tenet opens next weekend. And so I was like, well, I can see some things, and the only place to see them here in California that I was aware of was at your local drive-in theater. So that's what I did. I took a trip to the local drive-in theater.
I love a
Yeah,
good drive-in. Man, I haven't been to one of those in a while.
When's the last time you were at a drive-in before this?
Myself?
Yeah.
Not all that long ago, honestly. It was
okay.
probably about a month and a half ago.
Oh.
So and even before that, I think I went sometime last year. So I've never fully dropped off of the drive-in theater experience, really.
Nice.
I will say, in this sense, this probably isn't one you would want to watch at a drive-in because there's a lot of dark scenes.
Yeah.
And I couldn't make out a lot that was going on in the movie because of the darkness of everything of the screen. and just the scenes together, it was just like I see something of a person there, and I can obviously hear what's going on, but I can't
Kind
really
of.
tell what's going on. Yeah, so it wasn't the best experience watching it at a drive-in theater. So
I would
when
think
it
unless you're
probably hits,
I was gonna say, I think unless you have like really amazing sound system in your car, the sound's probably not even that great, right?
I mean, I think it sounds fine because these days, for anyone who hasn't gone in a very long time, and everyone who remembers, they used to
I
have
have
those big
not been in a
metal
long
Yeah.
time.
things.
You just use
Okay,
it
so
on
they
your
used to have
radio
those big
station,
metal
right?
things you put on your
Yep.
car, and you
Hmm.
Yeah.
turn that on. That's how you would get the sound. I would say at least anywhere from about 10 years ago, and maybe even longer, they replaced that with just
Yeah.
being able to turn on your FM stereo to be able to
Yeah.
hear the sound from from the projection. So that's what I did, and the sound comes through pretty well. I didn't feel like I was missing anything in that department. It was just a whole visual thing in terms of
Right.
what didn't
Right.
seem to work. Um, and so, with that being said, I think I will watch it again once it comes on to Hulu or Disney Plus, wherever they decide to put it. But overall, the movie itself, I would say, in terms of what Josh Boone was going for, making this horror movie set in the world of the X-Men and in this case, New Mutants, um, it worked from that perspective. But from an overall perspective, I think the movie was just kind of okay. It didn't really do anything specifically for it being an X-Men movie. And then from a horror perspective, it's kind of predictable in the types of scares that you're getting. It's nothing that's on a deeper level, nothing kind of clever or sophisticated. It's all the usual type jump scare kind of things. So, I mean, it does lean into that, and I will give it that for as far as credit. But as far as it being, this X-Men story that's related within that universe, I mean, I think it just kind of didn't go enough into that area of it for me to be really that interesting. And the characters that are in it are fine, but you don't really get a lot of them. And it's weird that you don't really get to know them that well and care for them that much because in the entire movie, I think it's only maybe 6 characters total.
Hmm.
And so for you not to really come out of that feeling strongly about some of the characters you saw, I
Right.
think that's a little bit of a miss with the writing. So I wouldn't tell anyone to go out and rush to see it in the drive-in specifically. And I would definitely say you would watch it on Hulu or Disney Plus, wherever it goes. Um, just out of the curiosity sake, if it was something you had thought you would want to watch beforehand, I wouldn't dissuade you from watching it. It's not horrible. It's just okay.
Gotcha.
And that's the New
That's kind of
Mutants.
what I was afraid of. That's kind of what I've heard, and I'm just like bummed. And I think it was Fox's last ditch of trying to really do something with the mutants again. And
Yeah.
Right.
just hearing
I,
that your opinion of it, Bobby, just I mean, doesn't. I mean, I still want to watch it, but I'm not super excited to chase it down. I guess you could say.
And who knows? Maybe I'll have a slightly better opinion when I actually can see all the scenes. I mean, not getting to see stuff too didn't help, but yeah.
yeah.
Hey, but look, I saw the box office and it made 7 million this weekend, and uh, had they probably just released it straight to something, who knows if it had made 7 million.
Yeah.
So maybe by all the time it's done, it can make it a good 10, 12 million in the theaters. And uh, it made 7 million with not all the theaters being open. So had all the
Right.
theaters been open, maybe it would have made 15 million. And I don't know how much
Yeah.
it cost to make the movie, but I was reading an article last week where they were saying how Boone had gotten into it with Fox over the thing and how they wanted to really drastically redo the movie and they were willing to scrap the movie and be okay with that just to make a new version. And somewhere within the article, someone from Fox was like, we could rescrap this movie and remake it 3 times and it still would be under budget of one of our regular X-Men movies. So it probably
Oh,
didn't
wow.
cost that much for
Wow.
them to make the movie. So I think the $7
Okay.
million that Disney's getting out of it is probably something that they're like,
Right.
all right, well, yeah, we got something. So
Curious. Now
Yeah.
I'm curious to know what it did. I mean, what it
Yeah.
cost.
what it
Right.
costs? Yeah, I'd be curious too. My thought was maybe somewhere around 30 million, but I don't know.
Yeah. So that was the New Mutants. That's in theaters now. If you have theaters open near you, or if you are even interested in going to a theater near you at this point.
Yeah.
With that, another new release happened this weekend, but that was on VOD, and that is Bill and Ted Face the Music.
That's also in drive-ins as well.
Okay. But, I mean, it seems like it's primarily kind of getting
Yeah.
a VOD release. And that was supposed to be in a wider release in theaters, but it's kind of primarily getting a VOD release, I guess, plus drive-ins. Yasha, you watched that. How was it?
I did. I dumped the $20 to watch it video on demand early and rent it. I did not want to spend the extra $4 to actually own the movie. I did just want to rent it. I don't feel like I need to add this to my catalog just yet. It was really dumb. Like it was really, really silly. But I mean, I went in it expecting that. Like there were parts that really did make me laugh, out loud. It was sweet. It was silly. I mean, I'd be remiss to say that I didn't enjoy it, because I did kind of enjoy some of it, but it was very cheesy. It was very corny, but I mean, what do you expect from this movie where they're basically playing the same roles that they did 30 years ago? Because the first one came out 29 years ago, and they're still acting very much like, whoa, no way, all that stuff. Like, so, kudos to like Alex Winters and Keanu and all the people that came back to do this movie. There were some parts that were just really laugh out loud funny. But yeah, it was a very silly movie. Like but I did enjoy it. It was really nice to kind of see, and it's a very easy watch.
Nice. It's a nice trip down nostalgia way for
Right.
us
Yeah.
old people.
29 years. Oh, my God.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
what was it? 80? What year was it? 88?
89.
89. God, we're old.
And the sequel came out in 91.
Yep. And no, I did not like Bogus Adventure. That was.
I don't
I
even
didn't think Bogus
remember. I
was
saw
that
it, but I guess I wasn't a fan because I don't remember it at all. Part of me has been like, do I need to watch it again before I watch Face the Music? Because I do plan on watching this. I want to see it.
I'm
And-
curious to see it, and I say that because like I love the first one. I've watched the first one. I mean, not all the time, but every couple of years, I get a wild hair at my butt one day, and I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it. And I still find it an enjoyable watch. It's cheesy and kind of corny, but I don't know. There's something about it that I love.
Oh, it's fun.
It is a fun.
It is,
one.
and I mean, I want to talk about it, but if you haven't seen it, like, I don't want to spoil anything. Clearly, obviously not just for spoilers, but there were a couple of characters that were very breakout, and you're just like, okay, that's funny, like, and you would just laugh at it, but it's just, you're just kind of like, where are they going with this? Where is this, type of thing? So it is entertaining.
Did they kind of touch upon the character of Rufus at all, like his situation, or not at all?
You really want me to tell you?
Well, I mean, I guess just did they touch on it, or did they just kind of overlook the whole
If
situation?
you question if you should tell us, then I don't want you to tell us.
Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
questioning it, that makes me kind of
No, I mean, George Carlin passed away in 2008.
right.
There's a nice homage to his character.
Okay.
So he does make an appearance, and it's a really sweet one too. It's really kind of cool, but it's just kind of, you kind of glaze right over it because
Okay.
he's gone in the movie. He's gone in real life, and he's gone in the movie. But they have
Right.
a really nice homage to it,
Cool.
to his
Okay.
character. So
I was just kind of curious.
how they did it was really kind of dope. Like it was cool. I liked that part of the movie as well.
Yeah, because like I've always loved George Carlin, like basically since Bill and Ted's Adventure. So, since I was a kid. So yeah, I was just kind of curious, but no, that's cool. I'm cool with that. That's all I need.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Bill and Ted Face the Music. So yeah, you can rent it, but you could go ahead and buy it. It sounds like it was like $25 to go ahead and buy it, or
renting was $19.99, buying it was $24.99, and I opted. I know the extra $4 or $5. I still was like, I don't.
Still, you're never gonna watch it again. What's the point? Right.
I probably won't. I probably won't watch it again until it's on HBO or something like that. So, am I the only person that watched that movie this weekend?
I planned to. It was a busy weekend. It didn't happen. But the funny thing is we did put on the first film, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, today for the kids to watch. They watched it. But no, I haven't seen it yet. I want to watch it.
Yeah. They liked it, though. They thought it was fun.
Yeah, they thought the first one was fun.
Oh.
The opening scene is so ridiculous. Like, you're just kind of like, what? It's like,
What did we just get into?
It's so like, it's like, what is happening right now? Like with this, with these guys, what is happening in their world? Like, it's so fucked up. Like I'm just like, when you watch it, you'll get an idea and you're just like, Jesus. But it's fun. It was fun. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, like when it comes to cinematic enjoyment, it's probably like a 5 or a 6. But for nostalgic reasons, it's definitely up to 7, at least.
Right.
And just kind of like, yeah, this was fun. I could watch this.
Moving right along, I was going to go ahead and jump in with one thing that I watched just because it is a relatively newer release. It came out about a week ago, I think, on Disney Plus, and that's the one and only Ivan. I say I'm going to bring it up, though. I really don't have much to say about it. For those who don't know, it is about it's based on a true story, but it's about a gorilla that is in a kind of a little circus that is in a shopping mall, and him and all these other animals, obviously when the humans don't understand them, but they're all talking amongst each other and wanting to be free. And it's definitely a kid's movie. I bring it up because it's pretty new. It's got a pretty good cast too. I mean, Bryan Cranston's in the film. Sam Rockwell does the voice of Ivan. Angelina Jolie is in the movie. Helen Mirren as voices. A bunch of other voices as well. It's cute. The kids watched it. I watched it with them, and they enjoyed it. So if you have kids that you think might be interested in this, my kids definitely liked it. Even my son, who was pretty skeptical of watching it, he came out of it actually really happy with the movie. It is based on a book, by the way, a 2012 novel of the same name. And like I mentioned, it's based on a true story that kind of gets covered in the closing credits of the film. Yeah, there's not much to mention about it. It's a pretty kind of standard animals in captivity kind of story, and it doesn't really kind of venture to anywhere beyond that really. But yeah, it's the one and only Ivan. It's on Disney Plus, so. I mean,
I have a question.
I'd recommend it. What's your question about it?
So, you said it's based off a true story, right? Or
yeah.
something. Why are there voices? Like, why are there are there talking animals?
So it was based off a true story, but then there was this book that came out in 2012, and the way it's written is from the perspective of the animals, of the gorilla Ivan. So in the movie, they give them voices where they can talk somewhat, but obviously the humans don't understand them.
Okay,
they're just
gotcha.
making animal sounds.
Yeah, the animals are talking to each other when the humans aren't around, and there's a young elephant that is brought into the mix of these animals who've been working together for a while, and it starts a conversation about like what's it like to be out in the wild and what is the wild. for this young elephant who doesn't know anything any differently from what this, world that they're in here in this shopping mall circus. But yeah,
that's
kind
of depressing. It sounds sad, actually.
Yeah. Well, I think
it doesn't sound cute and heartwarming.
I didn't get to see any of it really. I heard some of it, but I think one thing I think is kind of positive is from what I could hear, and David, you can correct me, it didn't sound like the people running the circus in the movie, I will say at least, weren't like mean or evil or like being cruel to the animals or in any way, shape, or form. It sounds like it was a very loving environment, actually, from what I could hear.
For the most part, there's some, Bryan Cranston plays the character that is kind of running the show here. He's he owns, I guess, the circus. And there's certain scenes where maybe he's not being mean, but he's kind of maybe pushing an animal to do more than it really should, like, kind of thing, because he wants this circus that's dying to succeed kind of situation. But you're right, Michelle. It's not really the humans are terrible terrible people kind of situation. They're not being like especially mean to the animals.
Okay.
But it's cute. I mean, yeah. Like I said, there's not much to say about it, but I think if you have kids that you think might be interested in it, I would check it out. So that's the one and only Ivan over on Disney Plus. Bobby, you have a few things you've watched in the couple of weeks, I guess, that we've talked.
Let me sit back. Let me get my cocktail drink real quick. I'll sit back.
But I say this because among the many things you have listed that you wanted to, I think, bring up, one movie that maybe I guess I didn't realize. I assume you're listing this because you hadn't seen it before. And but now you have, and I have to go to this first because now I'm curious. Had you never seen Indiana Jones and was it Legend of the Crystal Skull or Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
Kingdom of the Crystal
This is how much I don't care about this movie. I don't even remember the exact title anymore.
So this is the sorest subject ever for me.
So yeah, I mean, for those who don't know, Michelle is a pretty diehard Indiana Jones fan. I mean, I would consider myself, I guess diehard's not the word, but I mean, I loved Indiana Jones films growing up. I still love them, and I definitely still fall into the camp, especially like Michelle, that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is pretty terrible.
Oh no, it's so terrible to me that I pretend it doesn't exist.
Right.
I don't acknowledge that this film is
think a lot of
actually
people do.
out there.
A lot of
Wow,
people.
that bad, Michelle? That bad. You just don't acknowledge Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
No, there's only 3 Indiana Jones films.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, a lot of people feel that way.
What happens when a 4th film comes out and it's actually good? Will you like just go, hey, well, there's 4 instead of 5?
There's 3.5.
I still remember seeing the movie. I think it was opening night.
I was ecstatic,
and I was ecstatic about seeing it.
Dude.
And I remember going opening night to my local theater. And being really, I got there early.
I was amped.
I'm thinking, oh man, there's going to be a line. And there was like nobody there. And I'm like, where is everybody? I mean, it's not like anybody at this point heard reviews. It wasn't like it was already out there. That,
I think
this
I went
is terrible.
to like a 10 p.m. showing on Thursday night when they first started doing the non-midnight showings. They actually were doing them slightly earlier.
Yeah.
Like I will use the word amped. I was amped to see this film.
And again, like I was at first shocked. I'm like, where is everybody? How are people not pumped about a new Indiana Jones film? I was like, where's the crowds? And then I watched it and I was like, maybe did everyone get the memo that I missed? Because yeah, this was bad. Anyway,
the last thing I'll say is I was so saddened by this film. At one point, I was in tears. I was that upset by this film, and I almost walked out. I was literally in tears crying, going, this cannot be happening. That's how much this film upset me. To my core.
Wow. Okay.
To my core.
well,
So, Bobby, please tell me, what do you think about this thing that got made?
with all of this set up, Bobby, it sounds like I guess you never saw it. I'm curious, what brought you to watching it, I guess, recently, and what are your thoughts on it?
Well, okay, so it's weird because you said that you don't recall reviews, And I could have sworn there were reviews out for that movie,
Like
and that's what made me not go see it.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
recall that, but I mean, I don't
I
know.
think
What
I
year-
saw something. I think one of the first reviews I saw on it. This is a while now, obviously, so I don't recall if this is for sure. But I thought I saw something on Ain't It Cool at the time, and somebody had reviewed it and said this was not it. Basically, you were saying that where it wasn't good. It was good. It wasn't good, and I think the only kudos they gave to it was that it felt like Harrison Ford was indie, like he wasn't just phoning it in or anything. I think that was the only positive I remember hearing.
And all I'll say to that is, indeed, if there were reviews that were out there pre-release, which I mean, there always are reviews that are out there pre-release.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like movies are usually embargoed until like the night they open. But with a movie like this, I probably was also making an effort to not hear the reaction to the movie, like I would
I'm
do
sure I was,
these
yeah.
days. I would still, to this day, like most movies, do my best for certain stuff that I am truly like just to my core, like just infatuated with seeing. Like a new Star Wars movie, I would probably, I try to resist seeing stuff. Of course, the nature of us talking about stuff on this podcast now makes it a little more difficult. But, when this movie came out, it was pre that. So, yeah, I think I probably just avoided then. Like,
I think I did
anything.
too. I think I was just so like, well, I'm seeing
That
it. I
makes
don't
sense.
really care. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever. La, la, la. Fingers in my ears. I'm going to go. And I think that's what it was for me.
Right.
Sadly.
But with that
And
said, I mean, I've definitely seen major release movies that have indeed gotten bad, reviews ahead of time, but they were still big enough franchises that they garnered a huge reaction opening night. And to me, Indiana Jones would be that kind of movie. I would still expect, even with some bad reviews, that people would be like, oh my God, a new Indiana Jones movie is out. I'm going for showing. And that's totally not what happened when I went that night. But anyway.
And so the other part of that too is I remember hearing about that's how the term came about with nuking the fridge. And that I remember hearing about that in the reviews and seeing that in the reviews. And so, yeah, just nothing about it sounded good. So I just completely avoided it and just said, you know what, I'm not gonna do it.
You're a smart man.
You were a very intelligent man. What made you
was
fold
like-
so late in the game?
So what made me watch it was because I think I had mentioned a few weeks back where I wanted to start watching some movies I had never seen before. And on that mission was, I think, Die Hard with a Vengeance, which was one that I hadn't seen. And then I did The Fifth Element recently. And so I was like, oh, I saw that this was on Netflix with all the other movies. And I was like, well, all right, let's see. Let's see how bad it is. Strap in. And it's just so weird to me because, I liked it. I enjoyed it.
I had a feeling.
I'm out. I just can't. Bobby, you've lost me.
Bobby, I'm with you, man. Like, Bobby, I'm with you. Like, I didn't think it was that bad. Like, they're talking like it was just this like atrocity and just like this eyesore and like a terror, like a movie that should never have been made. Like, I mean, there was problems with it, but it's like I did enjoy it for the most part. Like, I mean, it was fun watching Harrison Ford be indie again.
That's kind of where I went with it. It was just fun seeing him be indie again. And it's probably because I come into it so late and knowing how Harrison Ford is now and knowing what it'll probably look like in a new indie when he plays him.
Yeah.
Is just that it just felt good to see him in that part where he's right on the cusp of maybe being too old to play the character anymore, but still just right there where he still can kind of pull it off. And I think it just kind of pulled some nostalgia from me and was like, you know what? I'm just in for the ride. And it's just nice seeing him doing this. And like you said, Yasha, there's problems with it for sure. I mean, the whole idea of
You gonna say it?
Shia LaBeouf swinging with in the trees with the monkeys and stuff, and that I mean it stretches credibility quite a bit within the film, but I think it does for sure, but I think I just had more fun with it. Hot take, controversial take. I like this movie more than the second
Don't
movie.
Oh, wow.
I honestly,
More than what? More than what?
more than more than Temple of Doom.
It's really trying to be nice.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that movie for me, I remember seeing it as a kid when it was in the theaters, and it just felt like it was a step down to me. I hate strong. I do not care for Kate Capshaw's character in Temple of Doom. I think it's her name. She's so annoying in that movie. I just kept wishing Indy would ditch her because she was so annoying. Short Round was good, but like her character, she's just so nagging. Just like, why is she with him? And it just pulled the movie down for me for a lot. And then I didn't really care for the villain in it.
Have you seen the second one in adulthood?
No, I don't. Well, yeah, I have, but it's probably been at least a good, I don't know, at this point, it's probably been a good 15 years since I've seen it at this point.
I think I mentioned it
that
when I was a kid, I did not like the second one either. And I will say, as I've gotten older, I've actually started really enjoying the second one. And all I could say in the defense of like Kate Capshaw's character and even Short Round's character is they're written and done in such an archetypal way that that's how women were, one, perceived in films during that time frame, and two, like that's just women either needed to be completely helpless or they needed to be kind of on this other side of a spectrum where they're annoying. It was just, everything was just very archetypal written, and that was kind of the point of it. I think that they were doing that film, but I'd be curious to see what your thoughts were if you watched that film fairly recently now, maybe being a little older, and maybe watching it with like some of the like the directorial like commentary or something, just kind of to see that conversation about the film and why things were decided that way. Anyways, sorry.
The funny thing you mentioned about that, and I've thought about this because I don't know where I saw this. I feel like years and years ago, I saw a clip somewhere where Steven Spielberg apologized for that movie. Like,
no, you're right. No,
and I don't know where I saw it, and I have since thought about it, and I've tried to find it on the internet. And I feel like I'm pretty good at Googling things, and I have not been able to find it, so it always makes me think I'm crazy that I saw that. But Yasha, it sounds like maybe
I've heard that too.
Yeah, I've heard him say, I thought that he apologized for it, that it, in stepping back and looking at it, it definitely, following up Raiders with that was not, he didn't seem happy with the outcome.
The whole reason he made Last Crusade was because that was almost like his apology. I remember reading that in an article. That was an apology for Temple of Doom, was because he was not happy with the outcome of the movie. He did not really like that movie, and he thought that he could do better. He wasn't happy with the resolution of that, and that's, I mean, to my knowledge, that's the whole reason why Raiders, the Last Crusade got made.
Well, and the thing with Temple, and I know we're way off topic kind of now at this point, but the thing with Temple is like, because I've watched all the director stuff and all the writer stuff, and I've watched almost everything as far as like their thoughts and process on this film, and a lot of it is he was really trying to capture the way serials were at that time, and he was trying to say, okay, well, what if we put Indy in this type of a situation? He was trying to make it different from the first one, but yet stay true to the time frame and the serial. And like, if I remember, technically in the timeline of Indiana Jones, Temple would be coming before Raiders. And so it's kind of like, I don't know, it all just kind of washes in a weird way. And it's one of those things like, when I was a kid, I was like, this? And I always thought it was just kind of a silly one and kind of weird, and it didn't really fit to me in the puzzle of the three. But it's funny now, again, just as an adult and kind of going into these films a lot deeper than I think an average watcher does, and knowing much more about Spielberg's thought process on it, and even Lucas's thought process on it. Like, I get it. I get it now, knowing what I know. But before that, it does just seem kind of like a miss, a one-off. But then if I look at the four of these films as a whole, this fourth one to me is it's a landslide back on the character in the storyline. But that's my own.
Yeah, all I'll say is I did semi recently. I think it was a couple months ago.
You did. You apparently
I-
couldn't sleep. I remember
I
this.
put on Kingdom of the Crystal Skull on Netflix, kind of with that mindset of like, you know what? It's been a while since I've watched this. I'm gonna give this a shot because I would like to like this. I hate the idea of this beloved franchise having a movie that I consider to be terrible, that
I
I
agree.
like you, Michelle, kind of want to ignore. Part of me, I would fully accept if I watched it now and enjoyed it. I would be the first person to go, you know what? It's actually not that bad. And I watched most of it and was like, nope, it's still pretty terrible. Like I just couldn't do it. I was definitely going into it that time with a very different mindset from the time when I saw it the first time in the theater. I was very open-minded with, okay, maybe this is gonna be all right, and no, it's not all right for me. I mean, yeah, we obviously agree to disagree on this one, but
On the upside, I'm glad that Bobby at least found some enjoyment out of it.
Yeah,
and he still enjoyed the character of Indy throughout the storyline. So, I mean,
Most definitely.
as long as somebody can find some enjoyment out of the film, then that's great. On that note,
Yeah, it just felt like a, and plus there's just not honestly a lot of adventure movies these days, not in that way. And
Yeah.
it felt like an adventure movie that I just don't see much of these days. And there was one particular scene, it had me literally belly laughing, and I had to rewind it a few times. And I just got such a kick out of this one scene where it's right after the whole swinging with the monkeys, and Shia's character Mutt lands in the Jeep with Indy, and uh, Shia looks at Indy and says like, "Whoa," and then Indy looks at Shia and is like, "Whoa." And then he had took his eyes off the road for a second, and then he looks back at the road and he's like, "Whoa!" And it just his reaction was so good that I just started cracking up laughing because of the way he delivered the line and just that little banter back and forth. It caught me so good that I had to have rewound that part about 4 or 5 times and got a genuine belly laugh each time out of it. So for that alone, I think the movie just won me over. But yeah, I can totally see how a lot of people had problems with it and still do.
well, moving on.
yeah. On to better topics.
We discussed Lovecraft Country last weekend.
Said better topics.
Bobby, it sounds like you have also watched it. Plus, now there's been a second episode.
Yeah.
And
One tonight.
And last week when we discussed it, I know Michelle and I were trying to convince Yasha to give it a shot based on that first episode. I'm trying to think how I want to attack this. I kind of want to say my piece on that second episode, but first, Bobby, since you haven't talked about it at all, I guess, what have you watched both episodes? What did you think in the first
Yes.
and second episodes? Maybe separately.
Yeah, separately.
Or anyway. go
I
ahead.
can lump them up both the
Yeah.
same way and say I love both episodes.
Nice.
And I know why a lot of people, I've seen the conversation behind the second episode. And for me, I understand that side of it. But I think what I also loved about that second episode is that it reminds me of what Joss Whedon used to do with Buffy or any of his shows, where you can't get comfortable and think you know what's going to happen, because he's going to pull the rug right from under you and be like, all right, let's reset these chairs and go to a completely different direction that you're not expecting. And I think that's what I really enjoyed about that second episode, because there's a lot of stuff that happens in that second episode that you think might carry you through the rest of the season. And I've heard of how sort of the episodes kind of play out, not specifically in that way, but that in terms of how it kind of is flowed and structured, to where it's like, wow, okay, that's curious, that's interesting. I'm on board. I want to see what that brings and entails for future episodes. So for me, I just really enjoyed the aspects of the show that have to deal with the Lovecraft creatures and that storytelling, and just the idea of what it means to enjoy this as someone that's Black, but knowing that the actual person of Lovecraft was a racist. So, it brings all those into it, and really tells this deeper level story of how those creatures are something that almost in some ways are easier to deal with because they're very much a known quantity. You know what you're dealing with. Whereas with other things that deal with topics of race, while you might know what you're dealing with, it's not as such an easy thing to slay and conquer. And I just really loved that aspect about it in the first episode. And I thought that they did a good job of giving us those characters in the beginning and really spending time with them and letting you know who they are so that once the second episode comes, they're just like off and going. And then it's like, okay, where do we go next? I'm excited to see where we go next because you just completely subverted everything that I was thinking that would happen within the season. So that's where I land on it.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned last week, and I think, Michelle, you're in the same camp, I really enjoyed that first episode. The second episode, I wouldn't say I disliked the second episode. I didn't like it as much as I did the first. I felt like it seemed like it tried to accomplish too much, and I don't know. It just didn't work for me on the same level as the first episode did, but I'm definitely still all in on the season as a whole. I'm going to keep watching. It's kind of the one show that I am watching as it airs right now.
Yeah.
So it's not like the second episode killed the show for me by any means, but yeah, I'm still on board, I guess is all I'd say.
I'm in the same camp. I really love the first episode, and people that had an issue with the first episode with its pacing, I actually enjoyed. Whereas in the second episode, for me, it was nice to jump back into the characters and be cemented because I think the first episode took its time to let you get to know the characters. And the second episode, I like that it jumps into them. However, the storyline of that second episode, and I'm a big Buffy fan, and I like the pace that Joss Whedon usually went with those. But for me, this second episode was so fast, and honestly, it was really choppy to me. I felt like a scene would end or a scene would start in super weird ways, and I just wasn't vibing on this episode as much as I was that first one. I felt like it just really plowed through the story. Even if they were going to do this story is one episode, I feel like it plowed through it really fast, and it is a storyline that I think could have actually taken 2 episodes, and they could have taken a little bit more time with it, and I think it would have flowed better. I really don't like the way it went down. It was too much, too fast, too choppy for me. Still, though, I'm engrossed in the show itself. I still like it. I still like these characters. I like where they're going. I like so many facets of the situations that they're in between racism and culturalism and history and science fiction, and there's just so many little facets that all are coming together, and I really enjoy that. So I'm still watching it, but yeah, that second one kind of left a little sour note on my tongue, and I'm not loving it. That second episode, at least. So, I mean, there's an episode tonight.
Right.
So we'll see where it goes. So,
it to me, it's like if that first episode was Alien, then the second episode was Aliens. It was just like it throws more things in there, and it just goes like full speed ahead. I think one of the things that it like specifically reminds me of is, at least in terms of how you just don't know what to expect, would be kind of like Firefly, when there would be these episodes where you're just thinking like, oh, this is the thing. And it's like, no, that's not the thing. And you're just like, oh, okay, so, all right, let's see where else we're going with it. And kind of knowing some of the aspects of what I understand of how the show is supposed to be, I guess I understand why it was done in that way. And I suspect maybe a lot of people, maybe after they see tonight or a few more episodes, they'll kind of understand that. But maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. With that, I know we've already gone on for about an hour, but Bobby, you had some other stuff you wanted to touch on. So I don't know if you just kind of want to kind of run through those. Anything that you wanted to bring up and share your thoughts on?
I'll go fast. I didn't realize it's been an hour already.
That
went really fast.
Yeah, it did.
Well, we're so entertaining.
I just wow, it just went really fast. So yeah, I had a chance to watch this documentary on HBO called Class Action Park, and it's about this park that was
Oh.
in Vernon, New Jersey, that is really this super dangerous place to go, and I was in shock. My jaw was on the floor in terms of how this guy who started making his money doing stock bonds and trading and stuff. And he kind of got kicked out of doing that because he was doing illegal things. And he used his money to buy up some land in Vernon, New Jersey. And at first it was this ski resort, but then during the summertime, there was nothing to do. So he decided to, at the bottom of the hill, make a like sort of a water park ride thing. And he did not seem to care much for engineering in terms of making these things actually work the way that you would want them to work. So most of the rides were more than likely going to get you injured and hurt. And in some cases, some people actually died at this place, and it's pretty surreal when you see some of the stories. I had to highlight a few things that I thought was interesting. So, and they talk about it through the documentary. So you really have to see it to get a good idea of it. And unfortunately, because some of these things happened that was during a time where everyone didn't have cell phones and was recording because this was the 80s, you missed out on some of the footage of stuff. So in some of the elements of them explaining things, they do like this kind of cartoon recreation of some of the stuff that happened. And it's just so unbelievable. So there's this one ride called the Aqua Scoot. And this ride was made like a slide, right, at an angle, but it was made it was made out of the slide part was made out of warehouse rollers. So as you would slide down this thing, sometimes your shorts would get caught in it, and you just like maybe your skin gets caught in it,
Oh my
and it's just this gnarly thing. And there happened to be a bee's nest that was built in, not built into it, but bees were in there. So sometimes you go into the drink and then you get stung if you were in the water too long because the bees were hanging out near there. So that's just one thing. And there's this Tarzan swing where it was a pool of water that you swing like you do in any kind of thing where you're Tarzan swinging, and you would go and then you'd go into the water. But because this water was a spring fed stream, apparently it was super cold, and there'd be like trout in the water as well. So it wasn't like this just pool that was man-made built. It was like he used the water from the land, and it just was super cold. So you'd see that people would go into the water and then they'd come out like kind of in shock, because they would say that even people who knew how to swim, they weren't prepared to all of a sudden be dipped into some freezing cold water. So there was that. And then there was this other one where apparently there was like, those wave pools which you see that are sort of man-made. And so there's a wave thing, and there was also this cliff pool. And I guess it got so bad with people not being able to swim or not being able to actually get out of the water, that they had to paint the bottom of the pool white so that they could see any bodies that were on the bottom of the. It's horrible. It's horrible. And it's like this place actually existed, but for whatever reason, the people who went there seemed to wear it as a badge of honor that they survived this place, that they were
Survived a
able
day.
to actually, yeah, that they were able to go to this
my
place. And they just talk about, the teenagers that kind of ran the place, that there was no real adult supervision around. And so it's a mess, but it was such an interesting thing to watch that I really enjoyed. So I would suggest that to watch if you have time. It's on HBO, and that's Class Action Park. And because I watched that, it made me want to go back and watch the Johnny Knoxville movie that he made about the park, kind of loosely based on it, called Action Point. And I remember the big thing about that movie was that they kind of did it in a Jackass style, where they did the stunts without doing any kind of like real supervision, and a lot of the pratfalls are real in terms of what they were doing in the movie. The movie itself it wasn't good. I mean, I would skip the movie and just watch the documentary. If you do want to watch the movie after watching the documentary, the movie is on Hulu and I believe Amazon Prime, called Action Point. But yeah, you could probably skip that one. I started watching The Legend of Korra. I had watched not that long ago Avatar: The Last Airbender and really enjoyed that. And now Legend of Korra has popped up on Netflix. So I started watching that. I haven't gotten that far into it, maybe the first 4 or 5 episodes. I can say that I like it, and it's interesting because it takes place, I'm going to get the year wrong, but it's like something far into the future, maybe something like 80 years into the future. So some of the characters from Avatar show up in the first few episodes, and I imagine further in the series in Legend of Korra, and they're older, like super old, and it's kind of crazy to see that as characters that you saw as little kids and Avatar being like older people in this series. And I'm enjoying it. I think right now the main character of Korra, she's a bit of a brat, and I suspect that's on purpose because to give her a character arc, because she already knows that she's the Avatar, and she's kind of a bit of a know-it-all and a little headstrong and trying to do too much. But yeah, I suspect that that's just to give her a place to grow to at some point in time within the series. But I think that most people who have watched Korra, who followed it up after watching The Last Airbender, really enjoyed it. So I'm looking to see where that progresses. High Score is on Netflix as well. And this is actually a pretty cool series. It's about video game industry and how it got its start, and it's such a trip down memory lane watching it. At least I've watched the first 2 episodes, and the first episode centers around Atari and a lot of how it gained its popularity. And you get to see the creator of certain games like Space Invaders and Pac-Man and Missile Command. And it's just seeing some of those games and hearing the sounds from some of those games just brought me back to being a kid and playing those games on the Atari 2600. And the second episode starts to get into the Nintendo and how that became a thing, because at in that first episode where they talk about Atari, they talk about the one thing that really kind of started the downward descent of Atari, which for any of you guys who remember, there was this game based off of E.T. and it was notoriously bad because you actually learned why it was so bad, and I don't think I knew that story of why it was so bad. But so far, within the first 2 episodes, I'm really enjoying it, not just for the trip down memory lane, but also because there's some elements of things I didn't realize. Like, do you know what the dots in Pac-Man represent? Does anyone?
I do not actually.
I've
you know
started the show.
how-
I remember hearing it, but I don't remember. But I'll agree with you that the show is good. Like I'm about 2 episodes in as well. But go ahead, Bobby. I don't remember what the dots
No,
represent.
I don't know.
Well, do you at least know how Pac-Man got created?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, so the basis of Pac-Man was that the creator and some of the other people went to go get pizza, and they took a slice out and it was like, oh, and basically there you go, Pac-Man. And the dots, at least within the framework of the documentary, when he was talking about it and explaining the character to a bunch of students, he called those dots cookies. And I was like, I never realized they were cookies. I just I had no kind of connection to them whatsoever in terms of what they were. I just thought they were just yellow dots, but apparently they were cookies. And so, yeah, it's just really been super informative in terms of being able to see some of those old things again and seeing them in a new context. So I'm going to keep watching that. That's about 6 episodes, I think, and it's on Netflix.
I remember seeing a trailer for that one and wanting to see that one.
Yeah. I mean, if you have any kind of connection to video games, I think it's a must watch for sure. Um, Another show that I started watching because I had heard people talking about it, but didn't really know much about it going into it, is this show on HBO called "I May Destroy You." And
Oh, I have heard some really good things about that one.
really, okay, yeah, I had only heard about it because I listened to so many different podcasts and I'd heard different people talking about it, so I didn't really know what to expect going into it, and it it centers around the character that you see there in the picture, and her name is Michaela Cole in real life, and she's playing this character, Isabella, and she goes through a traumatic experience one night with her and her friends when they go to a club, and the show really kind of talks about that experience and breaks it down in a way of really kind of delving into social situations and how you get into these situations and what transpires after it and the conversations that happen. But it does so in a way that it's, I would almost describe it as sort of a dark comedy because it deals with some heavy subject matter. But at the same time, I think it also does this balancing act between also doing that commentary, but finding ways of talking about other things as well and making that part of the story, because there's two other characters that are her friends that go through situations almost similar but different, and their perspectives on different things as well, and their friendship and how that changes and evolves throughout the series. And I really found myself enjoying it. I think I was locked in about halfway through the first episode because at first really didn't know what I was watching and what was the deal with it. But by the end of the episode, I was like, all right, on to the second one, on to the next one. So it was a really good breezy watch. The episodes were 30 minutes each, and I think there's like 12 episodes, maybe 13 at most, and this was the first season. I don't know if there's supposed to be multiple seasons, but she as a writer and as an actress was really good in this, and
Yeah.
I know that she has more, and I know that she had this deal, well, not a deal actually. She had this show that she was taking to Netflix, and I believe the story is that Netflix wasn't going to offer her what she wanted for it, that they didn't want to give her creators rights or something, and she was just like, all right, then you won't have my show, and she just
Yeah.
kind of like jetted after that. So I was like, wow, good for you, and that made me more interested in her and wanting to see this story. So I really enjoyed it, but I'm curious, like, Michelle, what did you hear about it?
Yeah, so what I heard was what you just said. Basically, she had written the show out and she she was really proud of it. She knew what she had. So she took it to a couple of places, and there are some places and they told her no, and Netflix was like, Netflix, they have a crap ton of content, and I'm sure they're screwing over a crap ton of people for writers'
Yeah.
rights and money and everything, and contracts and stuff. And this is a story of a woman who went into this huge office that was probably filled with a lot of, you know, money ridden white men. And she went, no, I know what I've got. I know my worth. And she was like, peace out. And HBO was like, oh, you want that? Yeah, we'll do that. HBO was like,
Mm.
yeah, that's the content we want. What do you want? You want how much? Cool. Let's do this. Like, it was a big thing when this happened. And then when the show released, everybody's just been, the comments and the criticisms have just been spectacular. Everybody just, her writing is really good. She's really good in it. They say it's a show that has content that has been missing in the social context of conversation. And right now it kind of fits in on a couple different levels, with everything happening with Black Lives Matter, and just our current social situation as a whole. It kind of delves into certain things and kind of can be pulled into certain ideas. But yeah, no, it's funny because I think she basically said, she's like, I stood up for myself. She's like, I know what I wanted. I know what I have. I know what I can offer. And she's like, she said, she's like, I'm not taking less than what I am worth in this world. And that's something that I know a lot of people will do, especially with like Netflix. Netflix is gigantic, you know, and people will just kind of go, "Oh, you're gonna pay me some money for my thing," and you know, starving artists, and I do get that, but no, she stuck to her guns, which is something that one, most women don't do, and two, definitely not most African American women. So yeah, no, it was big, it was a kind of a big thing a couple months ago, when this all kind of unraveled. But no, it's awesome.
Yeah. So going along with some of the other stuff I watched, I think I mentioned it when I first started watching it a couple months ago, I guess at this point, which was the Perry Mason show on HBO. And I watched the first episode, and I think I mentioned that it's a detective noir story, and it's pretty slow. The whole series is I wouldn't say specifically slow, but it's deliberately taking its time in telling its story. But I still found myself enjoying it, and I know it's got a second season coming, so I'm looking forward to that. But what kind of pulled me into the whole thing is the actor that plays Perry Mason, and that's Matthew Rhys, I guess maybe is how you pronounce his last name. And I don't think I had saw him before in anything other than when I saw him in It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. I think that was the one with Tom Hanks, and he was playing Mr. Rogers, and Matthew Rhys plays the reporter that Mr. Rogers ends up helping. And so I think that was maybe the first time I saw him until I saw him on Perry Mason. So I started like, okay, what else has he been in? And then when I looked on his IMDb, I saw
Yeah.
that he was also in the show The Americans
Yeah.
with yeah. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I really had wanted to see that show way back when it first started, and just never got a chance to. And then it obviously had gotten into seasons, and so it was just like, it was too late. And it actually just not too long ago had its series finale. And I've always been a fan of Kerry Russell's stuff, so I was like, all right, well, now let me check this out and see where it's available. It's on Amazon Prime, and so I started it a few days ago and gotten into the first two episodes of it. And for anyone who doesn't know, it's really about Matthew Rhys and Kerry Russell. They play Soviet Union KGB spies that are living in America in the 80s. And it's goes through their story, and they have this family, and they started off by not knowing each other and being put together to help infiltrate the US. And it's good. I liked it right out of the gate, even with that first episode. So I don't have too much more to say about it because I'm not that far into it. I've only seen the first two episodes, but I'm definitely going to continue watching that because, yeah, I'm already hooked into it.
Nice.
Yeah, I
That's a
think
good one.
I saw the first few episodes of that, and it's excellent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
It's one of those
that's good.
I really should have kept going with. And I at this point, if I go back to, I'll start it over. And
Oh, for sure.
but yeah,
Yeah.
it's really good.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Yeah, enjoying it for sure. And the last thing I have to mention is I had never, as much of a comic book fan as I've always been, growing up, I always was sticking really closely to the superheroes with powers and superpowers, and the ones that you would know of, like Superman and Spider-Man, and just X-Men, any of the characters that you know and love at this point. So I remember seeing on the comic book stand certain things that I just never gravitated towards because I wasn't into that kind of thing at the time. Watchmen being one of those, and the other one being Neil Gaiman's Sandman. And I always heard really good things about it. It was never my thing at the time. I just wasn't into anything that wasn't superhero related. So, there's always been the talk of them doing something with Sandman, and recently it's gotten even more traction to where there is a Sandman series that's going to be coming out on Netflix at some point in time in the future. But in the meantime, Neil Gaiman had did this audio book of the Sandman, and from my understanding, I don't remember exactly how many of the books it collects, But from my understanding, it actually takes those books and doesn't deviate. It's a straight telling of it. And from the other thing that I understand is that the Netflix series will adapt it more so than just go and do a straight telling of it and recreation of it. It'll be updated to modern times and so on and so forth. Whereas this book takes place in the 80s. And so it's more of an exact translation of the original books. And so Audible has this thing where I used to have Audible and then I canceled it just because it was another subscription that I wasn't using as much as I should. And they have this premium pro thing. And so I was going to just buy the book, the Audible, and listen to it. But then I saw when I was going to go check out that it said I could sign up for a free trial of this Audible Premium Pro, and I got 2 free credits right off the bat from it. So I was like, sure. I mean, if I can use that now and go ahead and get the book for free, and it's like a $30 Audible book. And then the other one that I used it for is this Thrawn novel that comes out on the 1st. I was like, I'm set, you know. So I had been wanting to see the story, and unfortunately, maybe not in terms of being able to read it. I'll get to at least listen to it. So I've listened to the first maybe hour and a half of it, and it's the story of Morpheus, who is the embodiment of dreams, and it gets into elements of where he has this family that are embodiments of other things as well. And it's kind of this, it starts off where someone captures him and kind of wants to use him and his powers for their benefit. And I've gotten only so far into it, so I can't really say much of it other than I'm enjoying it and really into the story of what's going on, to where now I can't wait to really delve into it and get more into it and see how this all plays out, because it's really interesting and it's right up my alley in terms of things that I like. And it kind of makes me sad I never got into the comic and graphic novels at the time, but I'm glad I at least have this to be able to listen to, which I know I have more time for listening to things as I'm driving and doing other things more so than being able to sit down and read something. So yeah, Sandman Audible.
Didn't DC Fandom have a small panel on that?
Yeah, there was a Sandman panel which I watched, and that's the first I had heard about the Audible. It's actually got a pretty major cast to it. James McAvoy's in it. Who's it? Kat Dennings is in it. Michael Sheen plays Lucifer. Andy Serkis, Riz Ahmed, Samantha Morton. It's got a good cast of the Audible. It's funny, I was watching that Sandman panel during DC Fandom thinking the same thing. Like, I've always been interested in Sandman and I kind of want to check it out. I remember I feel like it was soon after the New 52 launched. There was a new Sandman run. And I remember at that time, that was a time when I was actually pretty religiously going to my local comic book store, and I actually had some subscriptions at the comic book store. And I remember I just went ahead and started a subscription on that because I was just like, okay, maybe I could jump in here. Figured maybe it would be a good jump in point. And I read like the first couple of issues, and I just found myself to be completely lost. I'm like, I don't know what is happening. This is just so like esoteric, or I don't know what the hell. But yet I'm still really interested in Sandman, and it makes me want to go like, where is a better place to go back to jump into this book? Because I was, like I said, with that insertion point, I was like, I don't know what's going on. But or maybe the Audible would be good. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, watching that panel during DC Fandom had me interested in checking it out. And like I said, going back and just actually reading some Sandman, but just from somewhere else, some other point to jump in at.
Right.
Cool. Yeah, obviously you're going to get a different experience if you can actually sit down and read it, because it's illustrated. So, but yeah, I'm just having to use my imagination as to what it looks like.
I guess I was going to ask, what is it like an Audible version of a comic? Do you find that you're like, oh, I feel like I should be seeing something here and I'm not? Or does it feel like kind of a normal audio book experience?
Well, it kind of helps in that at least I know what some of those characters look like in terms of the main characters. And so I know and I can visualize that part of it. And everyone else I just picture as just whatever I'm picturing in my head. And as far as an audiobook goes, it's really well done. The the background, I mean, I don't know how to describe it other than if you've listened to an audiobook that's Star Wars and how it becomes very involved with sounds and different things. It's like that. It almost feels like I'm listening to a radio play of it because it's so well done, and the quality of it and the different sounds that's going on in the backgrounds and everything. It's really, really well done.
Isn't it funny how now in this day and age of technology, it's almost like we're reverting back to the way we used to be, where we're starting to go back to use our imaginations again. We're reading things, but we're also just listening to these stories get told, and we're using our own creative, juices per se in our heads to really kind of to do that. I don't know. It's interesting. Sorry, I'm just randomly thought like we used to sit around a radio and listen to a radio tell us a story. It's kind of what we're doing nowadays.
Yeah, totally.
So that's Sandman over on Audible, and it sounded like that was the last thing you were gonna bring up.
It was, but I know Yasha had something else that he had watched that he wanted to talk about.
Nothing else.
He's like, no.
I mean, I started watching High Score with you, Bobby. I didn't know that you started watching High Score. I completely forgot it because I've watched a couple of episodes and I just haven't gone back to it. But yeah, I mean, you pretty much touched on everything that I could say about it.
Have you thought about Lovecraft Country? No.
Haven't gotten to do that yet. Haven't got a chance. I will eventually, just based off of your guys' review. So I'll definitely go in and I'll check it out. But I haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet.
Cool.
The other thing that I was referring to that you mentioned at the top was that you had watched Harley Quinn.
Oh yeah.
I forgot about that. I started watching that based off of what you said, Bobby, but a lot of what David said last week when he started to watch it. And you're like, yeah, this is definitely not for children. And I will co-sign on that. It is definitely not for children. I was floored when the show started and they were dropping F-bombs left and right and everything. I was just like, oh my God, this is incredibly violent. And it is very much a rated R cartoon. But it's absolutely hilarious and I do enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. Cool. So I can't, I'm just trucking through that one, just ticking through it. Like, it's definitely, it's fun. Like, it is fun.
Nice.
I remember suggesting it to you because of how disappointed you were with Birds of Prey. And I was like, well, I know you love Harley. And I think that if you watch this, you'll get the kind of Harley you would really like. And so I know for a while it wasn't really available anywhere that you could really see it. But now that it's on HBO Max, and I was like, yeah, now's the time.
Yeah.
I do like her character. I think her character is really fun. I think it's a really good cosign for the Joker, but at the same time strong enough to have her own presence in anything that she does. I was this close to buying actually like a hardcover Harley origin story book this afternoon when I was at a comic book store. I was really close to doing it. Like the art was fantastic. I was really close to pulling the trigger and doing that.
Nice.
You and David had that in common.
Had what in common?
Both close to pulling triggers on things that didn't quite happen, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Another topic.
Veering way off topic.
Yeah. Inside baseball.
Well,
sorry.
With that, unless anybody has anything else, I guess it's time that we wrap things up. As always, we would love to hear back from everyone listening and watching. You can email us at feedback@flickereffect.com. If you're watching us on YouTube, please comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe by hitting those buttons and hitting that bell icon to be notified when we post any videos or go live in the future. We are on Twitter and Instagram at @Flicker_effect. So also you can reach out to us there. With that, I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
I'm Yasha Wilson.
And I'm Michelle Hillard.
Thanks for listening and watching.